There is only one reason why South Africa, the entire Africa, remains poor and underdeveloped. The ego of maintaining sovereignty, counterbalanced by the fear of returning to colonialism, means the government hovers over us like bad micromanagers. They tell us how to do business, how we can and cannot compete to contribute to the economic growth, who can and cannot contribute to the economic growth, controlling every facet while tightening the rope, squeezing us for more and more tax. The employee is the slave to the employer, who consequently is the slave to the government. Everything wrong with South Africa, everything wrong with Africa can be summed up in just 2 words: economic unfreedom. A couple of points I found very insightful regarding this economic freedom from Magatte Wade. I've actually referenced her before in a previous video. I enjoy her mindset and her point of view. Let's take a quick look at what she says. Why is Africa poor? Economic unfreedom, not slavery, nor colonialism, holds the continent back. Because Africa is rich in resources, which is something many of us say, but its people are poor. Something is clearly missing, this article says. And what is it? The answer: economic freedom. Economic freedom is not complicated. It just means that people can work, trade, and start businesses without being blocked by high taxes, overregulation, and endless rules. It means people have the power to build their own futures. African countries rank among the least economically free on Earth. Very similar to a topic I covered in a previous video, which I will link here. Taking a look at this graph, for instance, the countries with the most economic freedom: Singapore, Ireland, Norway, Hong Kong, US, UK, Japan, New Zealand, UAE, Mexico, Poland, very high GDP per capita. Meanwhile, Iran, Egypt, Zimbabwe, China, Russia, all sit at the bottom left, economically unfree. And the data backs this up. Look at places like Singapore and Switzerland. They don't have gold mines nor oil fields, yet the people are wealthy. Why? Because they made it easy to start businesses, to trade, and to invest. They removed barriers to growth. What is BEE? It is a barrier to growth. Singapore is a recent success story. When Singapore became independent, 4 years after South Africa became independent, bearing in mind we then went straight into apartheid, but it was a very poor country. Since then, it has grown at the tremendous average rate of 7% a year. Singapore is one of the richest countries in the world. And something Magatte has said before, which I referenced in my previous video. In many African countries, starting a business is harder than running a marathon. Permits take forever, bribes eat into your budget, and by the time you're done, you've lost time, money, and competitiveness, especially in today's connected digital world. This is what Magatte says about economic unfreedom.
Line up 100 Africans here, line up 100 non-Africans here. You ask them, why is Africa poor? Most Africans and their allies will come up with the usual suspects: colonialism, slavery, they're stealing our natural resources, racism, yada, 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 yada. The non-Africans, who are not allies of Africans, have no compassion or whatever, would tend to say low IQ, they fight all the time, they're lazy, they're crooks. Both sides would also say bad leaders, bad governance. But do you know what I don't hear from either side? No one will say Africa is the poorest region in the world today because it is the most overregulated region in the world. It is a place in the world where it's hardest for any entrepreneurs to do business.
How true is that? You know what I do not hear from either side? No one will say Africa is the poorest region in the world today because it is the most overregulated region in the world. And here's where corruption comes in. Corruption makes economic unfreedom even worse because corruption is a result of economic unfreedom. When there are endless regulations, bribery becomes the only means of accomplishing anything. How true is this in South Africa? Bribery becomes the only means of accomplishing anything. When property rights aren't protected or laws change without warning, South Africa comes to mind, people lose trust in the system and begin to resort to corruption. Because at the end of the day, we all need to put bread on the table. Then investment falls because nobody wants to invest in the uncertainty corruption brings. When you have clear, fair, and predictable rules, clear, fair, and predictable, but not so many that it impedes entrepreneurship, corruption will diminish. Trade is another issue. Africa should be the most connected continent, but it's not. Tariffs, quotas, and inefficiency makes it easier to trade with Europe than our own neighbors. How crazy is that? It is easier for each individual African country to trade with Europe than it is for them to trade with each other because of tariffs, quotas, and inefficiency. It just seems like a compounded problem with so many nuanced layers. She does go on to say, thank goodness, I love solutions. We don't have to stay stuck in these broken systems. Mauritius shows us what's possible. They opened trade, cut red tape, and attracted investment. The country's GDP per capita has more than doubled in the last 20 years, ranking higher than countries like South Africa, Brazil, and Serbia. I mean, just look at this graph. Economic freedom works because it incentivizes people to take control of their lives. Isn't that something Gwede said quite recently? Stop looking at government, he said. Go find yourself a job, or go make your own work. I mean, isn't this what Gwede was referring to? Economic freedom works because it incentivizes people to take control of their lives. We are unable to take control of our lives because we sit in a mostly unfree economic country. And the cheek that Gwede says, stop looking at us, go find your own jobs. Magatte goes on to say, when government steps back from high taxes, over-regulation, and endless, impossible to navigate rules, people rise. They build businesses, create wealth, and transform their communities. Oh, imagine, it's beautiful. And we could still have this. That's why I fight for fair systems and fewer barriers. Entrepreneurs shouldn't have to jump through endless hoops to start businesses. Laws should protect people, not punish them. And trade should unite Africa, not divide it. Clearly, the math doesn't lie. And many of you and I have had the conversation in the comments. The data is right here. I show multiple sources of data in my videos. The math, the stats, the data doesn't lie. The freer the country, the richer the people. GDP per capita is 8 times higher in free countries, and extreme poverty is 16 times greater in the least free ones. Imagine this, starting a business in minutes, not months, not years. Access to sound money to empower people to save and trade globally. Trade flowing freely across Africa, innovation flourishing as African talent is unleashed, and boy oh boy, is there some amazing talent in Africa, in South Africa. The world looking to Africa with respect, not pity. Countries that have embraced global integration by opening trade and cutting red tape, such as Mauritius, have seen their GDP per capita more than double. Success models like Singapore, they show that it is possible. It emphasizes the point that natural resources is not the barrier. Colonialism is not the barrier. It is about making the country easy to trade with. Nothing but the government is holding South Africa back. This corruption and micromanaging, pretending like everything they're doing is okay, is the problem here. This has nothing to do with apartheid, nothing to do with colonialism, nothing to do with dollar dependency, but it is the government's inability to let go and let be. The government is dragging all of us down, they're looting the coffers dry, and then they continue to over-legislate, as if they've got their little ducky ducks in order, oblivious, refuse to speak about the mess that they are, going so far as to pretend like everything about their rally in Rustenburg was okay. How delusional. The funny thing is that they're controlling and burdening the very people who are responsible for paying their exorbitant salaries and those gorgeous increases they recently got. So instead of creating more of us, more taxpayers, they squeeze us until there is nothing left. Because sure, the cause of Africa's situation might be environmental obstacles, lethal disease, and even the destructive legacy of colonialism. Great. But what are the solutions here? What's the way forward, guys? We can't just keep saying, oh, it's because of colonialism. That was 19 footsack and a donkey ago. We are all well aware, well educated on the cause of Africa's situation. What are the solutions? because we are in the now. We are in the digital age of 2025. And really, in my opinion, with or without Starlink, South Africa has absolutely no excuse to take part in world affairs. Sitting in the past and pointing fingers at the issue, the reason we are where we are, will get us nowhere. We continue to talk in circles. As a collective, we must start pushing the narrative to a solutions-based conversation, an action-based conversation. Why are we still poor and underdeveloped? It's been over 30 years because of colonialism, but that ended years ago. That ended before apartheid. Why are we still poor and underdeveloped? We have to educate ourselves and others that the situation we are in, that all of us are in, is because of the government, not apartheid, not colonialism, but government. Current day government. The problem has changed. The focus has not. Everybody is still focused on past issues, but the problem has changed. The problem for our current day poverty is government and their over-legislation of the economy. But I would love to know if you agree that economic freedom is the best solution, the best way forward. Do you agree that the narrative of the causes of our poverty is so outdated that we need to start looking at the current day problem, which is government, because that is the only thing we can control. There is 100% nothing you can do about colonialism or apartheid. It is in the current government's hands to create policies and environments that would allow us to rectify the situation. If you found this video insightful, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and then start playing the role of good citizen and share this video. Let's change the narrative. Let's educate others. Guys, thank you so much for all the support. I really appreciate it. All the comments, all the shares, and all the likes. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Over and out.